Strong-willed children. Like, Hi, I'm Sandra Jones-Keller, author of 21 Lessons to Empower the New Age Kid, and you are?
I am Thomas Keller.
Okay,
and so Sandra had an experience that activated her this week.
Yeah, and I've been waiting a whole week, and I wanted to calm down a little bit because obviously I was triggered. So I read something that said strong-willed children. And I was like, well, what the heck does that mean? Because it took me back to being a child where I was considered strong-willed, and I didn't think I was strong-willed. But I was clear. I was clear about what I wanted. I was clear about what I didn't want. I was clear about what felt right for me. And so when I would question things, my parents would get frustrated with me. And like the worst thing you could do to me is say, because I said so. Like, well, what does that mean?
Okay.
And so when I read this thing about strong-willed child, it took me back. And I was thinking, well, what is a strong-willed child? Is it someone that's a child that's just clear about what they want and don't want, and then we as adults or parents are trying to push our agenda on them and they're pushing back?
Or is it a child that won't just comply and go along with whatever their parents or caretakers trying to tell them or get them to do?
So, Em, do you think you're a strong-willed child?
Kind of.
Okay,
so Em is a strong-willed child because we have homeschooled from day one. I have, and we have always asked her to make her own decisions, weighing the options, thinking about it, but you make the decision, and that way she could accept the consequences of those decisions. So now, years later, she's 12 now, when I go to say, and forget, and I go say, Mecca, go do this, or go do that. And
no.
she says no, because I've always asked her to be self-decisive. So when I forget, she says no. Is that strong-willed? No, she's just clear.
So I think, for me, strong-willed had a negative connotation, like
Right.
It was something bad or it was something that we needed to control. Versus, so M has always been like very clear, and
Our daughter.
So like even when she was young, I remember I would ask her this or that, but when I had my own agenda, and even just recently, so she was getting ready for an ice skating competition, and she had a headband that she wanted to make, and I was like, oh, I think it'd be really nice with beads. And what did you say?
No.
Yeah. So, like, I had this vision of this matching headband with the rhinestones.
That was your vision.
My vision with the matching rhinestones from her dress. And
but it wasn't her vision.
I said this a couple of times, so I could easily see where that would have turned into a power struggle.
Yeah, but who was competing?
Well, it was her. And it was her dress.
Right.
But I have seen parents try to insist on something
because you think you know better than what you think your child knows intuitively inside.
Yeah. So that could have easily turned into a power struggle, and actually wouldn't have been a power struggle because she just would have said no.
Right.
But I would have, been frustrated because I think I mentioned it, 2 or 3 times?
Too many times.
Too many times.
So even let's take it one step further. If I have a strong-willed child, based on the universal law of mirroring, that means that I'm the one who's strong-willed, trying to impose what I think is better onto my child. That's all a strong-willed, quote-unquote, strong-willed child is showing the parent.
Absolutely. And, so because you mentioned the word comply, so I have my agenda, or I have this thing that I think should be done. And then my daughter says, well, no, or I'm not interested in that. And then if I start pushing,
right,
then it becomes a power struggle.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden I start labeling, she doesn't want to comply, doesn't want to get along. She's strong-willed.
Right.
Like it's a bad thing.
Right. Like you got to break a horse that's strong-willed.
Like I got to break a horse. And so, like I said, I was triggered. And so growing up, I felt like I had to fight
Right.
I had to fight just to maintain like a sense of peace and balance for what I felt was right. And so now how does that translate as an adult? So now as an adult, I find, and I'm better, but I find that at the minute I feel like someone's telling me no or trying to control me, then it's like those barriers go up and I can't even
You go on to
hear.
automatic pilot.
I go on to automatic pilot thinking that you are trying to control me.
So you don't have a conscious choice. You're automatically reacting.
Because I was told I was a strong-willed child, because I was trying, because I was, told to do this, this, and this, which maybe I didn't want or I, did want. And so then you become a strong-willed, obstinate adult maybe? Because,
You've been told that as an adult, too.
Really?
Yes.
But
No,
but it's funny, though. So then I become that strong-willed, quote-unquote, person, right, as an adult, trying to impose my
So
desires.
if you are a parent and you think you have a strong-willed child, I can only suggest you look at yourself to see if you're trying to impose your position onto your child to get them to comply to you, instead of allowing your child to learn and grow and gain the inner strength that they may gain by making their own decisions, both good or bad, hurtful or powerful.
Okay. So I have a funny story. So this was about 7 years old. We were living in Georgia at the time. And it was cold, and so I'd gone out and gotten M a new coat. It was like one of those really heavy coats.
Right.
But then like a week later, I saw that Macy's had these girls' coats on sale for like $25. Those really expensive ski jackets.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, let's go to the mall and get a coat. So before we even drove the 30 minutes to the mall, she said, I don't need another coat. I need boots. And I was like, oh, well, let's just go and let's go have lunch. And she's like, I don't need another coat. I need boots. Mm-hmm. But I had my agenda.
Right.
So I heard her, but I wasn't listening.
That's right.
Because I had this thing. I wanted to go get a coat for like $25.
Mm-hmm.
So we get there, and Macy's was in the basement next to the toy department.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to find these really cute coats, and she's like wandering around to the toy department.
Not the least bit interested in the coats.
Do you remember this?
No.
Oh, okay. So she's wandering around in the toy department. So every time I turn around, I'm like, what are you doing? We're trying to get a coat. And she is like,
you're trying to get a coat.
I'm trying to get a coat. So she is not interested. I start getting frustrated. And, so I finally did well, if you don't want a coat, then let's go. That whole thing. And she's like, okay.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until like 20 minutes. No, this had been going on for 20, 30 minutes. We're going up the escalator, and I went, oh my goodness. I just said, you said you didn't want a coat. You said you wanted boots. And she's like, yeah. I had my own agenda going. Mm-hmm. She was not interested.
Right.
And so I had gotten into what was a power struggle for me, but it wasn't a power struggle for her because she was just doing her own thing.
Right.
And so I was the only one frustrated because she was very clear.
And she already had a new coat just a week or two before.
It doesn't matter. It was on sale.
So but watch yourself for patterns that you run unconsciously.
Yeah. So I had my agenda. She didn't go along with my agenda, and then I started thinking, oh, she's strong-willed, she doesn't want to listen, she doesn't want to cooperate or participate. So I started naming all of these things simply because she was unwilling to go along with my agenda.
And by the way, I don't think you can break a child like you break a horse. I think you might drive them away from you, but...
Well, I don't know. So that's why I wanted to talk about strong-willed children because
you got very activated because you perceived it as a negative when you were growing up.
I perceived it as a negative. I would go places and things like didn't make sense to me, and I was, being told that, you should do this.
Right.
And it was
you should.
And it didn't make sense. And so then I was strong-willed because I didn't go along or agree, even though it didn't match what my heart was feeling.
Right, exactly. And we encourage you to stay true to your heart as a parent and as a child, and listen to your children to see what their heart's desires are, and listen to your own heart.
Yeah, and so if you find that you're getting into a power struggle with your child, I suggest you step back and see what your come from is. Yeah. Because when I find that we're kind of like this, if I step back and see where my come from is usually from me running my own agenda or trying to. and
Yeah.
she's not interested or not willing to go along.
I think there's a Star Trek episode that does this perfectly, and they're resisting this thing out in space. The more they resist, the more it keeps coming at them until they change around their pattern and stop resisting. And dissipates.
Yeah.
Who's creating the strong will?
Well, me trying to run my own agenda creates pushback from my daughter, so that's it. Do you have anything else you want to say?
You did tell him you're the author of 21 Lessons.
I did tell him the author of 21 Lessons to Empower the New Age Kid. It's available.
And you have a website?
It's available on Amazon. Visit my website, sandrajoneskeller.com. Got some great articles and videos. Visit my YouTube channel, Sandra Jones-Keller on YouTube. We've got 8 other videos. We're up to 9 videos. And our videos are from personal experience. We like to talk about real life, how we've worked through things, how we're working through things, and things that come up for us. Have a fantastic day. Happy parenting and leading.